Hey guys, this is Tom Box. Thanks for tuning into MST.TV, and we're going to be doing everyone's favorite segment of this show, the banlist prediction of October 2021. And feel free to comment down in the comment section what you guys might think is going to be the banlist, or where I am going to be wrong, because that's why you guys come and watch this video. How wrong is Tom Box going to be? Might as well make that the video title, right guys? Banlist fact. Near the beginning of every format, I've got the best deck, I've got the best chain blocks, the best combos, OTK, and great recovery, and I play through 2 to 3 hand traps, easy. Near the end of the banlist season, the other guy's got the best deck. He's got the best chain blocks, combos, OTK, and crazy recovery, and he also plays through 2 to 3 hand traps. So look at his deck, don't look at mine, because mine's totally fair. It does the same thing, but mine's fair because I didn't do well with it, and therefore I get to play with it a little bit longer. Please don't ban my deck. They're kind of like hypocritical cowards. Oh man, the format's so boring, but please don't ban my deck. But the format is so boring though. You can't win every scenario, I guess. But anyways, if your deck is part of Drytron, Tri-Brigade, Dragon Link, Shaddolls, Invoke, Prank Kids, it's likely you're going to find something on my list that involves you. And as for Crossout Designator for part of the Megatins, if it is there, then maybe there's going to be a Maxi coming back. Maybe. Very much a maybe. I don't even think there's going to be a guarantee that Maxi will come back just because this thing came back, because I would feel like they're not exactly related. But it'd be kind of neat if Maxi did come back. But let's just jump into my list countdown here on the ban list. So whether you guys agree or disagree with me, leave it down in the comments section, because I would appreciate it, and I would love to know your thoughts, and maybe Konami reads this stuff as market research to see where the player base feels about certain cards in their game. But with that being said, hopefully you guys can help me smash that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding notification bell, because it will really help me defeat the algorithm gods. And let's begin with the ban stuff. Alright, for the ban stuff, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but first off we have Dragoon. Is Dragoon the problem, or is it the Red Eyes Fusion? I think it's Dragoon because it's the boss monster at every level of play. It is the card that people hate dealing with. Beginning level of play, you're just preventing people from enjoying the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And maybe even coming back to your locals because they're getting crushed by a card that they have no outs to. Most beginner decks do not have an out, but that's besides the fact. The key fact here is at the competitive level, it is also being abused thanks to Drytron players summoning out this big boss monster after getting hand trapped, putting it into a simplified game state, and now you have to fight a Dragoon in a simplified game state. You know the person is not enjoying that. They're like, what the hell's going on? I can't beat this. I hand trapped him a couple of times. I should be winning, and they're not playing Drytron anymore. They're just playing Dragoon. And I had to commit so much to stop the Drytron. This is just unfair. And you know what? I kind of agree with that notion. It is quite unfair. And for Subterra Gru, you're just oppressing the other guys to the ground. They can't even play because you have the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon for the first negate. You have your Set Gru as the second one, especially with the Fiendus as the second negate. And then maybe you have a Floodgate, or maybe you have like any of your cards that you can activate, whether it be Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike, your Floodgate such as TC Boo, or Summon Limit. It's very oppressive. The other guy's not going to play. It's a free win for you once you get to that combo. So there's not much I can say. Your argument could be, you can just ash my card. Well, if I could. It's also a hard open. And so in other words, let's just say Dragoon is the issue. Moving on to Winda. Winda is something that you guys are probably keyboard warrioring right now. It's like, oh man, Winda's not as good. If you take away Winda, Shaddolls are dead. Shaddolls aren't dead because you take away Winda. Shaddolls are dead if you take away like App Cologne or Construct. I think those are the two key monsters you definitely don't want to lose. Winda is a win button for you guys because you guys use it as Vanity's Emptiness. That's why it is here. It's comparable to Emptiness based off of its use case right now because it is searchable. It's a searchable Vanity's Emptiness. That's how I'm going to compare it. Because most likely you're going to be chaining your Schism to summon out your Winda. You're not even playing a Shaddol package, and you're putting a Winda in here because you just need App Cologne and you need the Schism, and you just need that Winda in the deck, and you can just call it a day. You're not really playing Shaddol in that case, and for that case, I would say putting it at 1 is even too much. That's why it's 0. But if Konami is generous, they can still leave it at 1 because some people are still able to out the Winda, but in a more centralized deck with more Shaddolls, the key issue is that when the Winda is about to break, you chain, say, an El Shaddol Fusion or some way to actually summon out another Winda, that is a bit too much, because it's always going to be a follow-up to another special summon after the wind has been turned off. Winda will be able to add a different card back to your hand, and you're kind of back in that cycle where you're still not able to summon. You're using it as emptiness, as I'm saying. You're just not letting your opponent summon at all. I get that it could be a very key part of the strategy, but it is also very oppressive, and the way that it is being used and the way that it is being searched out and how it's used on your opponent's turn you're not just sitting on a Winda and passing turn. You're waiting for your opponent to do something before you put the Winda out. That is the use case that I'm trying to put here, and that's why it is too oppressive. That's why it's also a legit candidate for the ban list. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't get hit, and Konami does like shit all after all nowadays. But regardless, if it does get hit, it is valid. Next, we have Imperial Order and Herald of Ultimateness. Imperial Order is a very oppressive card, and I get that people compare like, for Imperial Order, we are using it to counter Harpy's Feather Duster. Fair point. But for all the people that aren't using it to counter Harpy's Feather Duster, you're basically putting a death sentence on any deck that requires fusion summoning, and any kind of search-based deck, any deck that requires to activate most spells. Free win on one card draw is pretty much the definition of ban worthy already, so that's why I was there. And what about protecting my back row? Guys, if you want to protect your back row, go invest into some King of the Sky Prison in the next set, because that card is really good. And looking at Herald of Ultimateness, comparing this to Herald of Perfection, it's pretty simple. This one can also negate special summons, which also turns off their summon trigger. It's pretty devastating. And there's actually more, because I think you got to take away a boss monster. I don't know if they're going to take away Perfection, but Ultimateness definitely seems like a fair candidate, because it is the most oppressive card here. Like, Perfection's not as bad, because at least your special summons are still going through, and you can find ways to kind of out the board through making some level of chain blocking. But Herald of Ultimateness does not allow that, because Herald of Ultimateness can negate the summon altogether and start negating stuff in that next coming chain. It's pretty brutal, and that's why that is there. But there's more hits for Drytron, don't worry. Now let's go into the limited. Okay, for limitation, let's go into Tri-Brigade Revolt or Tri-Brigade Fury. It's an or situation because it changes the way that the cards function in terms of its purpose. Right now, it's serving as both the oppression by banishing your opponent's monster. It puts a lot of pressure by banishing your opponent's cards, disrupting their board, and you get to fetch a bunch of cards. But if you limit either or of these, you actually kind of cut it off in a way. For Revolt to go to 1, you still get that one push and you get that one cycling recovery, but you do not get a second revolt anymore. Without the second revolt, that means you will not be able to recover the resources anymore. Therefore, your grind game gets cut short if you put revolt to 1. On the other hand, if you put Shurig to 1, now you lose a whole combo line and your revolts are a lot weaker. Because that means when you do your combo line, you can't go into the Shurig play early, and therefore you have to hold back on how you combo, making your combo axis weaker. But your revolts, after you burn your first Shurig, all your other revolts can go into Rugal and other monsters, making it a bit more defensive, but you can also grind to get more pieces. But when I say defensive, it's not really that much more defensive, because on your own turn, being a mid-range deck, your follow-up is your strongest turn, and you can still go ahead and make your Axis Code Talker, make your Doom Eagle, and just still kill your opponent. Just that you won't be able to rely on a Shurig anymore for the spot removal of whatever that you need. So this is either or. I think it's fair. I personally think Revolt to 1 might be the better choice. Shurig to 1 is very, very sad. Moving on, next we have the Heretic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. I think Dragon Link has proven themselves to be very, very strong still. Like, we can go with a Heretic Seal of Heavenly Spheres plus the Dragon Maid Tiding, still going to kill someone very easily, oppress the board, skip the opponent's turn. Plays more like a mid-range deck almost, because you're not really oppressing the other guy too far to the ground with a combo, but you just kind of want to end on the same stuff. And there's also new combos of Fallen of Albaz. If you use the Fallen of Albaz combo, which is 3 disruption through just 1 copy of your Heretic Seal, because the Heretic Seal is going to bounce 1 card, non-target, summon out the Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz is going to fuse off one of your opponent's cards, because it is more or less a super poly, and there's basically a target for everything, so that's fine too. And if you use a light, that could be the 3rd disruption, because now you get to summon out a Borlord Furious Dragon by banishing the Fallen of Albaz. Another dark monster has fusion material, and now you have a Furious Dragon that can pop a card, so it's pretty good, I would have to say. Next, Eva. Eva can go to 1. In YCS, I played only 1 copy, and I still got far enough to, so yeah, I guess I topped there. But the thing is, I missed it 7 times, and of those 7 times, it would have made the matches so much easier, like a lot more one-sided. So I would have to say, now that I put it in, it is super impressive. And it's a very, very good card to be able to search the additional 2 negates, or just the searching of the hand trap itself is also good, but the addition being a diviner, making it even better. Ridiculously good, I have to say. So yeah, put it at 1, or even ban it. It could be banned. That's why I didn't put Herald of Perfection completely gone, just because the Eva is 100% should be hit, should be touched. But if both Herald of Perfection and Herald of Ultimatus gets banned, Drytron is going to completely change their lineup in terms of how they want to play. Next, we have Prank Kids. You know what? I'll get back to Prank Kids once I go into the semi-limits, but it does seem very weird that I put a Prank Kid Fansies here, because I think that's also one of the strongest Prank Kids in their entire lineup. Magical Meltdown to 1, because it is not just one of the strongest field spells in the game. It searches like Alistair, and Alistair probably deserved to hit a long time ago, but it's still here because we just love him so much. But Magical Meltdown to 1 is fine. I don't really care about if you have 3 Alistairs and you have 3 invocations. I don't really care. I don't really care about any of that. I just care about Meltdown being just unable to respond to any of your fusion monsters activating. And you go like construct activate. I can't do anything about that. Apclone activate. I can't do anything about that either. Everything is just so locked up when it's Magical Meltdown. And oh, it's not just that. It's just like, I activate Shadow Fusion. You better have an Ash or else you're screwed. Like, there's no way. Even if I have the optimal negation, it doesn't even matter because it plays through everything. And that's for the last card here for a comeback. We're talking about Magispector Kieran. I think my list here is actually a little bit more focused on giving Pendulums back something. Pendulums have been out of the scene for a little bit too long. I mean, they could totally just get back a second copy of Servant of Endymion. I think that's completely fine. Now let's go on to semi-limits. On to semi-limits, and I'll jump back to the Prank Kid stuff in a little bit. So Tenki to 2 or 1, I wouldn't be surprised if it went to 1, but at 2 it would make sense. If people compare it to like Rhoda. Rhoda has a full toolbox to search for any of the warriors that are level 4 or lower. Same with this whole Tenki shenanigan. Tenki, although they argue that it is once per turn, which is why I say semi-limit, because it just reduces the consistency of opening the card, and you'll have to fill it with a different card. Next, there's also Nadir Servant. This is to reduce the Apclone to Winda service that it offers, but also it is also like a generic search card that's really, really powerful, because if you open Nadir Servant, you send a card to the graveyard. So if it's a Titanic Cloud, that's 2 cards that you're automatically getting searches for, right? That's 2 cards immediately, and you have your Ecclesia that searches for another card. That's like a 3-card search with 1. That's a lot of searching from 1 card. So let's reduce some of the Apclone to win the shenanigan, and also reduce the amount of pluses that people are getting through control. And that's why that's there. I know they're getting a reprint, but 2 seems to make sense. I wouldn't be surprised if it went to 1, especially if Winda is something that they're trying to control. Now let's go into the Prank Kid stuff. I put Doodle 1. I have the overall reducing the grind of the deck, but it's really ineffective. I put question marks on this one, because how do you hit a deck that recycles its own resources and only requires 1 card to effectively combo out more or less everything? It's 1 card plus a blank card, which I get, but Fansies is the one to put a 1, because it's the one that actually sends something to the grave or loading the grave. That's why that's the one to go to 1. But I get that you can just go 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. So in other words, I need to make sure that you have more opportunities to brick, basically not open as optimally. You can combo, but you won't have solid follow-up. How do you actually legitimately hit Prank Kids? I don't want to hit your fusion spell, because it's kind of the key point of your deck. You don't want to reduce access to your boss monsters and just get rid of it altogether. You just have to reduce the likelihood that you're able to grind such hard games of Yu-Gi-Oh! And to me, it seems like we're going to go into the old BA route of hitting Prank Kids. I don't know if they're really going to hit Prank Kids, let's be honest here, but maybe because Pack's victory with Prank Kids, maybe that will be the tipping point for Prank Kids, unfortunately. And I really don't know how to hit this deck, because I've seen the combos, and you can either put Meow Meow Moo to 1, that makes it a little bit harder, I would say. But ultimately, if you hit any of the cards, if you ban any of the cards, it really kills the deck. Maybe except for Rip Roaring Rooster, but it really kills the deck if you ban anything. If you ban a Fansies, that means you kill Battle Butler, because you don't have the right names to actually fusion summon. So, but if you hit like anything else, it feels like everything is a slap on the wrist. So reducing the consistency is all I can really think of in terms of hitting prank kids, and putting Doodle to 1, putting Fansies to 1, the one that Foolish is, and the other you can put to 2. Even if the other 2 doesn't get hit, like maybe a prank kid name might get touched, which is like, it sounds crazy to you guys. I know it sounds super crazy, anything about it. But okay, let's go into the last one here, the 3-ofs. So, wishful thinking, what are we bringing back? Double Iris Magician didn't do anything the entire format. Teller Knight, Ptolemaeus can go to 3, and Dynamite Knight can go to 3. Those are the 3, and I guess the last thing to kind of come out of jail is kind of Kieran. But Kieran isn't a different boat. That's why that one's going to 1 instead. I feel like they can definitely do more. Double Iris, I feel like it's kind of a given, because test play was that no one touched it, so it's kind of, it can come back now. Ptolemaeus, I think it can go to 3. I don't think anyone cares about this card. What is it going to do? Summon a Cyber Dragon Infinity? Like, really, that's it. And which are the level 4 decks that can rank into this? Like, it used to be Pendulums, it used to be Pepe that really abused this card to go into Cyber Dragon Nova to Infinity. And I guess in OCG they had Azathoth to shut people out, but Azathoth is banned, all right. And Cyber Dragon Infinity access, I think if you're playing Raid Raptors, you already have access to Infinity without this card, which requires less resources for you. Definitely not going into this card. Next, there is going to be Dynamite Knight. I'm not putting Masterpiece at 1. I know how oppressive that card is. Everyone says, oh, you have the right combination to out it. Yeah, but have you personally played against a Masterpiece? That's what I'm going to ask you. It is not fun. The other guys always end up hating you because you're like, oh, your monster's just so... It's an unaffected Dryden, essentially. That's 2950. It's not small. And it has quick effect to pop cards. I would see Diagram come back before the Masterpiece comes back, and that's something. We all know Diagram's like super strong, but Dynamite Knight probably can come back to 3. But that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys agree or disagree, leave it down in the comment section. Oh, by the way, check out MST.TV for some awesome fun merch. You guys can get yourself some new box dividers. But thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for listening to an old man ramble about a card game that he loves. And hopefully in the next format we'll be much more excited. I'm ready for the next format, by the way. If you guys want to test out proxies of the new stuff, you guys can check it out on my Discord link in the description. And thank you all you Patreons out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.